listening to The Adventuring Party, talking about gaming the Irish way. By the way, this is the last episode for 2022. We're going to drop this one on Christmas Day. Hope you enjoy. We'll be back in about 2 weeks' time in the week ending January 15th, 2023. On with the show. If it isn't the old War Master Scarr. How's things? Warlord Scarr? They upgraded you, didn't they?
Yes, and why are you talking about this old thing? Where this old...
sorry.
Like, I am a youthful. I bathe in the blood of my enemies. That's the whole point.
And yet you are as ancient as war itself. Timeless reminder that there is only death and bloodshed at the end. We're near the end, right? Well, maybe we are, maybe we aren't.
So
maybe not.
It's an odd one, I'll have to admit. We are in a situation where we're, in terms of page count, about halfway through this book. The Dungeon Master's Guide by Gary Gygax.
For this is the Tomes of Gygax, episode 18. With your host, SavageMick, and the aforementioned, but definitely not beyond his years, Warlord Scarr.
Yes.
Right, okay. We're halfway there.
Oh, what? 007?
Oh, well. Oh, my goodness. This is what you get for working with millennials. Okay. So we left off having discussed the scaling up our holy water making operations on page 115. Now, you're telling me we've got half a book to go. But what you're really telling me is...
I think we're in the home stretch because a lot of the rest of this book is appendices and lists of magic items. So if everyone wants to complain about the Dungeon Master's Guide being nothing more but a list of magic items to research at the table, don't worry, that has been the tradition since the very first one.
Yeah, and I can think of worse things to put in there. I mean, we've had... Compared to later editions, we've had plenty of actual advice. Some of it's crazy advice, but there's been plenty of it.
I think of one of the best ways to damn this book with faint praise is that it's definitely a book that you have to read and interpret, and you definitely shouldn't take everything in the book at face value. The vital GMing skill, as you will learn as you read this book, more than any other, is the ability to look at some pre-published material and go, this is a bunch of nonsense, I'm going to do my own thing.
I think if it has a modern day equivalent, it's one of those YouTube videos that has a title card that says something like 10 things you can do with WD-40 that you'll never guess what number 7 was. And you watch the video, you go away and you try them, and you come back and go, 3 of those things I shouldn't do with WD-40, but I now have. And I'm the wiser for it.
Yeah.
Those bees were hella angry.
But yes, so we have a bit of a few pages left to go before we get into sort of the slope downwards in terms of reading speed, not in quality, although, you can always debate that.
So that brings us then to spell research.
Yes, on page 115, spell research. Yeah. And I just want to read the first line because it's again one of those completely different assumptions lines that you really have to examine in the modern day. And it is, whether from the desire to create a new spell or from dissatisfaction with a lack of power, it is certain that the magic users in your campaign will eventually get around to inquiring about the procedures necessary to research and create a spell. Certain, he says.
Okay.
Gygax just cannot imagine a situation where the players that are at your table would just be happy to say, oh, there's a different kind of fireball that does like extra smoke or a bit of acid damage, or like he seems to be immune to the concept of, end of source books full with extra spells and magic items that were the staple of the genre going forward from this very book. Like he it's just the way this is written, with the assumption that I have to write it this way because you're going to have to make up everything yourself. You and your players are going to have to create your campaigns.
He's allowing
items.
for it. Yeah, he's allowing for it. I mean, there are spell lists and there's magic items galore, more than you'll ever get through in a campaign. But if those won't shake it for your players, or if the player fantasy is to do the whole bubbling alchemical research thing, then at least there's a rule system for it. Now, it's always been my impression that players, even wizard players, the best way to get magic spells, new ones, was to rob them out of someone else's book.
Yeah.
Preferably after wiping their blood off the cover. Yeah. And I think that might be because these rules probably were tried at some point, and all the wizard players went, "Nah, I think I'll just nick it, mate. This is much easier. This is expensive."
Yeah, this is again one of those patches on the XP system where Gygax designed the XP system around accumulating vast amounts of wealth, and then realized he hadn't given people enough things to do with their wealth. So this is yet another way in this book for a GM to suggest ways that players can divest themselves of their wealth. I mean, this is what, the third or fourth subsystem for this? I mean, there was the asking people's questions system, there was the training yourself to get levels system, there was the multiple different army and castle systems, there was the bloody nightmare of trying to train your flying horse, and this is just one more, I guess.
Yeah, you got to put the money somewhere, right? How many inns can you have?
I mean,
actually, yeah. Never mind. That's a lots, as it turns out. As long as they make you money. The moment you're over leveraged and they don't, well, that's a different story.
I mean, I don't think it's inherently bad to have like money sinks in a campaign, but it just kind of stands out to me how many Gygax felt he needed, because that's how big, particularly once you get to
okay, hold on. A wizard's going to have a spell money sink. A fighter isn't. Like, fighters don't care about research spells. At least if you put money into this gold sink, you get explosions out.
Well, it depends on what your stick-to-itivism is, as well as your this isn't working-ism. Because
we have to remember that these campaigns he was running, some players might have long downtimes for the characters where this sort of stuff could be kind of cooking away in the month between they played last and the next show up.
Yeah.
You don't sound convinced, so let's go a little bit further into it.
Okay. I don't think...
so you can research spells that exist that you kind of have meta-knowledge of. So whether the spell is new or a list of spells which the character has been unable to locate during the course of his or her adventure, the process is nearly the same. So you can, if you can't find a copy of Melf's Massive Arrow to steal, you can basically figure it out from first principles.
Well, that was one thing, because I believe there was a system, like, when you these days you level up, you pick 2 spells from the gigantic list in the back of the PHP and you're happy. But I believe that in first edition, you got like a percentage chance to learn a spell depending on your intelligence. So if you didn't roll well, you just didn't get you didn't get that spell through leveling. You had to go through this expensive researching process.
Yikes. So potentially get it for free on a one-time check. Otherwise, money, it's back down the dungeon. These things don't pay for themselves. Cool. Okay. So you find out if the character's smart enough to know it. Are they able to know it? And you don't tell them. The GM doesn't tell them. They might go off on a wild goose chase for months, sing thousands into it, just to discover that they don't have a prayer.
Yeah, I think this is possibly my main problem with this section, is that there's a very big attitude here of it's the player's fault if they try to do something that's impossible. Like,
at least they tried.
I guess, like, Gygax probably justified themselves for this because it was probably going to be mostly used by, the people who'd been playing Wizards for months and would have a much better idea of what spells are appropriate for what levels. But it's still, like, when you can have a thing where, like, if they're trying to, like, create a third level version of a fifth level spell, and you're not supposed to tell them this is too powerful for the slot. You just tell them, yeah, sure, go ahead. I'm rolling real percentages behind this dungeon screen. Yeah. Oh, it just seems like you're just rolling so badly. And apparently, they're supposed to waste thousands of gold and months of downtime on this wild goose chase that they could have been, going down dungeons and leveling up to get the spell naturally.
Look, sometimes you found Ben and Jerry's, and sometimes you found Theranos. That's just when you enter the game of magical research, that's just the risk you take. Delicious ice cream combinations that no one had ever thought of until they got stoned, or vaporware that cost billions, and a few lives as well. But never mind. Right, so gotta waste money on something, okay? Look, this is ultimately up to the GM, right? He or she gets to decide if this is a fruitless endeavor or not. Although I suppose, yes, trying to crack level 3 power word kill is, on the face of it, pretty ridiculous. Seems like a bit of an ask. So
there's also the section where apparently, in order to research a spell, the player has to hand the GM a typed copy of the text of the spell.
Amazing.
I mean,
oh wow! It's like when you sit down and really try to figure out how you're going to word this last wish.
Yeah, I mean, it's an answer to take.
The finest legal minds in the West Coast were brought in for some of these.
I guess I'm just not surprised that this type of system just atrophied away as time went on, and players just started saying, "Can I just spend 50 euros and buy the Book of Ultimate Magicosity?" That sounds like it's a simpler process than going through the hoops of figuring out what level my GM thinks greater invisibility plus whistling should count as.
Yeah. Look, I mean, he says it right here. Any super powerful absolute killer or like spell must be thrown out immediately. So that there is this kind of problem with kind of Mother May I aspects of playing a game, and at the table on the day trying to sort of negotiate nebulous magical powers or whatever, or sick combat moves does fall prey to that. An open discussion with your GM as to what you might achieve through months of research is one of those times when, it's on the DM to go, well, I hear what you're asking for, I'm willing to go this far, and some of this is just a no-go, and here's what it'll cost, or you've got to go on this quest. That's a fine example of when Mother May I, to use the pejorative term, or, a healthy conversation, is appropriate. As long as it isn't taking up a lot of table time. But he's given us a framework. Let's get to the nitty gritty. What's it going to cost us?
Oh, where was it? Cost research: only 200 gold pieces per spell level per week. However,
peasantry.
Spend
more on golf.
However, this assumes that the Reacher has a laboratory or a shrine in the case of a cleric, or presumably a druid circle in case of a druid, and a library at hand, built up in gaining levels of experience and whatever other reasons are applicable. To the base cost is added a weekly variable of 100 to 400 gold pieces per level of spell. The variable accounting for additional materials needed. If no library materials is owned by the researcher, the base cost increases by a factor of 10.
Oof.
The research.
Well, yeah, it's independent research, like from primary sources, is expensive.
Yeah.
Like, look at what it costs to make a documentary. I can see this. Yeah, I get it. You got to go to the places. You got to go down the lithium mine. You got to talk to the child. If you want that sick footage.
Yeah.
And then you got to go back and report your findings. And there's infographics. And there's sigils. I've forgotten what we're talking about. I'm still thinking about golf. Why is there no golf in D&D? Why? Like, it seems like such an obvious thing you'd put in the game. It's like there's tennis in the court of King Charles, right? What's that era? They played tennis in like the era of Henry VIII and Charles. So then you've got like golf comes along from I believe Scotland, and you basically play it in big estates on flat fields with a ball that you can hit with a stick. Like the sort of quasi medieval Renaissance fantasy worlds that we tend to play a lot of D&D in. Surely they have golf. That seems like a no-brainer. So easy to do. Put a golf course in your next game. Think about it. You know, amazing crap for that. Like, good fun. Imagine a barbarian and a druid playing golf.
Yeah. Well, okay. Hold on. Sorry. Now I want to launch into a big aside.
Well, I feel like I've given you a big old platform to do it from. Badminton. There's another one.
For all we've talked about, like this book, and okay, this is spoilers for it. I don't think there's an actual world building chapter. I think there's like,
oh shoot, yeah, you're right.
Like we've gone through most of the body text of this work, and there's been examples, there's been mechanics, there's been wild asides about werewolves and holy water, and how many...
A world where werewolves and holy water exist and not golf. Gotcha.
But I don't think there's like the biggest close thing we had to the world building section was that weird aside about how you could teleport to Gamma World and how to build castles.
Oh yeah. Well, hold on. That's your clue. What were they doing in that section? They were selling you their
products.
Now, would you really give someone the tools to make game worlds if part of your revenue stream is selling them?
Products.
Game worlds, yeah. So Greyhawk.
I mean, that is the thing. Like Greyhawk was the big sell. I think it came out like around about the same time as this book, and it's probably a reason why this book was handed off to a newly hired editor, while the great folio of the world of Greyhawk was lovingly rendered with all of Gygax's might and terrible names.
Because they were going to sell a bunch of them. So yeah, I think it makes perfect sense that there isn't one in here. It should be in here. 100% agree. World building guide, or at least some guidance on it, should be in here. World building, I think, might be overrated in terms of it's very useful to be able to do open heart surgery, but you don't need a lot of people who can do it. What you need are a bunch of people who know like 4 or 5 useful things to do with WD-40. And they'll get by with that. The open heart surgery stuff, like that's a whole different thing, and you probably don't need to know about it to get to do what you want to do in your own home with your own can of WD-40.
Yeah, but will that heart surgeon insert golf into the campaign setting that he's designing for you?
He will not, but the WD-40 should help. Yeah, like I don't want to advocate for amateur or garden heart surgery, but everybody's going to give it a go eventually. And most people find they're not particularly well suited for it, which is why no one wants to play your game. But yeah, it'd be very hard to give someone useful advice on how to be an open heart surgeon in a few pages. But you can probably give them some pointers on, like the spiral method or something like that. You don't need a world Bible. You just need 1 page of notes ahead of your players. And keep moving the furniture.
Yeah.
Anyway, I feel like we've gotten off tangent here. Off tangent. We've gotten off of the tangent we were already off of the subject on, and that's my fault. but we're going to come back to the golf thing eventually.
But I kind of want to go straight from one tangent onto another.
Go for it.
We're going from the same platform. It's just like we've all
I hope
these
you
things.
folks at home are keeping up.
Yeah, we're so close to the downward swell. This is the last couple of steps to the top of the peak. But we see all throughout this book all of these things to do in your non-adventuring time. All of these building castles rules, recruiting henchmen rules. We have researching spell rules. We have, all this stuff here. But what we don't see is advice for when in the real world do you do this. There's no advice for, hey, there's a whole bunch of stuff your players will probably want to do. And here's how you explain to them that you do that between sessions. This was apparently, I have to presume, just sort of obvious to Gygax from the way he was sort of running this campaign full-time out of his house, that he would just have people come over, and rather than waste the time of the great group of 10 people who are going to be in the session that evening, he would just, someone would come over at lunch or something, come over his house or ring him, and just say, my wizard is going to do this, this, and this for the next week, because I'm not going to be at the session, or I am going to be at the session and I'm going to bring my fighter instead. But it's never explicitly said in this text. It's just one of those automatic assumptions that Gygax made. And considering how much the stuff there is in this book and how little of it there is in later books, you have to wonder that an awful lot of confused 12-year-olds bought this book, tried to put magical research rules into their first level campaign, had one player just eat up all the table time, going, I make super magic missile. And all the rest of his players left, and there was like, well, this was stupid. Stupid Gygax and the stupid rules.
We're going with the plunder method of magical research from now on.
Yeah,
that seems entirely. That's exactly what I do. I just read the cost of research and the length of research paragraphs, and my smooth brain is glazed over. There's some weird assertions like the player must establish the amount to be spent on the cost of research based on his or her appraisal of the level without assistance from the DM, and that's in italics. Is emphasized, like without assistance. Make sure that they're on their own. They can screw up here, and you're not going to do anything about it. So, Gary, come on. I think putting this stuff in front of people and going, there, that's how you do it. I can think of a few different ways. You ever been stuck in a Shadowrun game where someone's playing a Decker? And you're like, just what you described there is like, we're now going to take an hour to deal with something that will happen in 6 milliseconds in the real world, or 6 months in the case of magical research. And everybody else is going to have to wait for us to resolve it at the table.
Yeah.
If you've got a Decker in your game, I don't know, maybe make them play Candy Crush for 30 seconds, and their high score determines their success in the challenge. Find some way to get them out of your hair. Any sort of hacking or anything like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I digress.
Yeah, it's just like we have all these systems and subsystems designed to fill in what Gygax... Basically, Gygax always prioritizes what he considers the hard part of the thing, which is the mechanical structure and the punishing effort required from players to get it to work. But he very rarely mentions the practical, how do you actually do this at the table element of it. This is how you structure the process of bringing your friends over to your house and running a game for them. But that part apparently was just so self-evidently obvious to Gygax because he was a veteran wargamer surrounded by veteran wargamers, and they sort of... all the gamers he knew this automatically. That's how you organize a wargaming night. But, he just apparently just never switched over to the mode where he realized, wait, this book is primarily being bought by teenagers and college students who've never seen a war game in their life.
We all have blind spots.
Yeah. Okay.
He could have done us a big favor and maybe put it in bold text somewhere. Buy your GM a couple of beers. Is that in the book? It should be in the book. Like, if that would have been foundational day one. Oh yeah, and no greasy snacks. That's come on.
Maybe. I don't.
You don't have to share. You don't have to share. But I really don't want your chip grease.
I think there was a section early on where he suggested he suggested that players chip in to buy the DM all their miniatures, which I guess
all their miniatures. Oh, let's not go crazy. Why don't I put his kid through college while I'm at it? Miniatures are expensive. Beer is a nice. Everyone appreciates it, and there's always a need for more. I really don't need any more miniatures. Okay. Fabrication. Let's go to potions and scrolls and things.
Yeah, just to point out that there's like the base chance of success is 10% plus your intelligence score.
Get wrecked.
Plus your level, minus twice the spell level, and you can put it upwards by
mid-20s?
doubling the chance of your spell, or doubling the cost to increase the chance per 10. There's a lot of dice rolling. There's a lot of math.
So you can get to about 20-something%, and then you got to start spending some serious cash.
Well, closer to 25, 30, but yeah, very quickly.
Street math.
And you just don't know how. Like that's the thing about the whole "don't tell them if it's possible or not" thing. It's because it's very easy for a completely normal, successful spell that you are actually very much capable of doing could still take 20 rolls of the dice to come out if you don't roll well enough. And of course, because the rolls are secret, like how would you know what your odds are? So
you bust out that spell and it just makes everything that's wooden turn into a frog or something. But that's not what I wanted to happen. It doesn't have any kind of failed state, does it? Like it just fizzles. It doesn't do anything funny.
Yeah, it just keeps
or useful or interesting. You can't orco it.
Yeah, it's just you keep trying and you keep losing money and time, and until you either
that's
give
research.
up.
Well, I mean, in fairness, these were STEM people, right? They were used to wasting lots of money on research that didn't do anything. That's what I'm saying. Academia, am I right? Okay, let's move on. There was one other thing. Confidential. I like this bit. This bit I like. I mean, this might be worth everything. Once a player succeeds in researching a new spell, it is his or her character's alone. Only that character has the proper formula, and no mention of the spell should be made by you, the Dungeon Master. It's they are able to surprise and delight. Haha! You didn't know I could do this spell. Boom. That's cool. That's nice. It's nice to think that you could bust it out, and other players at the table are like, "What did they just cast?" Huh. I should research spells.
Or you should kill them and take the spell book.
Yeah, well, they did make the mistake of writing it down, so boom. Finders keepers.
Yeah.
Alright. Magic items, potions and scrolls. I mean, potions get used a lot. I find in D&D these days, people just don't use scrolls. It's always like, I get to use this action, use a scroll, or there's something much more efficient or important I should be doing with my character right now.
Well, I'm going to say right now, I think one of the major problems is that they've hard locked scrolls, the use of scrolls to magic users or particularly skilled thieves, and
that sucks.
Yeah, it means that
there's nothing funnier than a barbarian reading a scroll.
yeah. It's just there's this idea of niche protection, and we'll get back to it when we get into the magic item section, where there is actually somewhat of a solution in this book, which was discarded later on. But yeah, it's just like scrolls don't get used because they're back pocket items, whereas if you're a properly built wizard, and presumably you are, if you're high enough level, start getting loads of scrolls, presumably you already have the spells that you like casting in your prepared spells, and this random, this one lets me swim underwater. Well, we're in the desert of desolation, so that's nice and all, but I think I'll stick with this lightning bolt I prepared.
I just finished up a campaign of Out of the Abyss, which takes place in the Underdark, so great naming there. And I played a ranger who eventually picked up water breathing as a spell. Never came up. Don't regret it. Water breathing is a good spell to have, just in case, safety first. But yeah, you can, so the stuff you got that's important that you're going to use all the time, you're going to use all the time. And stuff at the bottom of your bag, as you say, back bottom buckets of. I think a lot of martial class players, they've got real object permanence problems. If it isn't in their hand, they don't know it exists.
There's that, and there's also the maximize your turn problem, where like, what's the most effective thing I can do? Well, I could be messing around my bag for this tub of glue I found 3 levels ago and see if it's hardened or not, or try doing some kind of lasso rope trick, or I could just hit them for 37 damage and kill them, and the fight be over.
Yeah, that's.
Whereas, this was.
People should watch more Jackie Chan movies. Is what I'm saying.
Yeah, but depends on how you interpret the rules here. But the theory was that in this early edition, an individual round, unless you're surprised, in which case an individual round would just absolutely eviscerate you. But if it was a proper fair fight, you probably weren't going to do that much damage if you're a fighter. So it might have been a better idea to try grappling on. Actually,
do something useful. You know what? It's not Gary's fault. It's not our fault. It's just one of those things. Where are we? Okay, so potions, however, remain useful in there. I mean, I still think potion use should be a bonus action.
Yeah, definitely.
But then again, I've seen a lot of people shotgun a 16 ouncer. So yeah, that's definitely a bonus action. Item interaction at best. It's easy.
Yeah, like. Potion mechanics is one of those things, but I
wonder if you put the potion in a condom and just swallowed it a bit down. Like, that'd be quick. You need to find really. They generally don't fail. But you're rolling around the combat. Glass vials aren't much better for protecting a potion. Gotta be a better way of delivering potions. Slay Industries, one of those guys who just took a lot of drugs and were Scottish and headbangers. They used potions all the time. Oh, they're called drugs. Should we skip over the whole drug use thing? Oh, let's look at the ingredients part.
Yeah, okay. So there's the magic item section, making the fabrication of magic item section starts out with the usual disclaimers. Never tell them how they actually will figure out to make the magic items. Only let them make permanent magic items if they're already basically maximum level. But there then goes on to one of those wonderful, really interesting sections for making potions and scrolls, where there's a whole bunch of suggested ingredients for the potions later in the book. Where, like, to make a potion of flying, they need hippogriff feathers and wyvern blood. How are they going to get these hippogriff feathers and wyvern blood? Is it worth? How are you, especially since you don't have a potion of flying, to go hunting the hippogriff and the wyvern? How are you going to get the feathers and the wyvern blood before you get the potion of flying? And interesting issues like that. How do you get the potion of healing? Well, you're going to either have to shave all the hair off a saint or kill a troll, and hope you don't need healing after killing the troll.
St. Bartholomew, the utterly smooth. How did you get that moniker?
Well, it turns out there was this crazy GM who had an idea for drinking a potion of free action, and all of a sudden, all those players of the campaign felt they needed beer keg helmets full of stuff. Okay,
so feathers and things, like, I instantly tripped something for me. I'm actually looking at some peacock feathers here at the moment. that my wife brought back from a petting zoo, I think, or something. And I was just like, but you know where else you'd find stuff like that, especially fur and feathers? Vintage clothing stores. But in medieval fantasy, whatever, towns and hamlets, you're not going to have vintage clothing stores, but you are going to have nobility. And I guarantee you they're using cockatrice feathers for like a headdress or something. So the big brain move is hit town and find some reason to raid some noblewoman's closet. And when you're caught, like, just imagine that scene. You're caught with their bow of feather made of rust. Is it just rust monster? Rust beast? What do they call it?
Yeah, rust monster.
Yeah, rust beast antenna. Rust monster antenna, and a fancy hat with a couple of rock feathers sticking out of it. You're like, I can explain. It's the bard and the barbarian just dragging it up as they try and escape. For
all the complaining I've done about the DMG in this episode, I do think that this is that kind of scenario, that kind of suggested scenario is the real strength of this book, because it's just like, if you ignore the horribly punishing mechanics and the vast sums of money just being frittered away for something you could find in 2 rooms into a dungeon, the suggested shenanigans on the economic woes as you try to corner the market on ogre magi blood or the skin of a mimic, it's just it presents all these interesting story ideas in your head, and it gets the juices flowing, and that I think is the big strength of this book. Similarly, there's a whole thing for scrolls, where you have to get the special paper. You have to get, it's different. The chance of success goes up whether you're using vellum or parchment or. And there's like, here's like the 7 ingredients that you need to mix into your ink to make your scroll of protection or petrification. Again,
including powdered gems.
Yeah, first off, you need to powder all these gems, but also the main way to get the ink for the powder for the protection from petrification is to definitely get yourself petrified with all these basilisks and cockatrices and medusa venom and then there's a recipe where you have to.
Can I read out the recipe?
Read out the recipe.
The petrification spell. So 1 ounce of giant squid sapia. Okay. 1 basilisk eye. So you're getting 2 scrolls out of a basilisk. That's pretty good. 3 cockatrice feathers. 1 scruple of venom from a medusa's snakes. I thought Medusa was her name.
No, they're monster type.
They're medusas. Yeah. Okay. 1 large peridot powdered, 1 medium topaz powdered, 2 drams of holy water. So we've discussed holy water manufacture before. I love this last one though. 6 pumpkin seeds. 6 pumpkin seeds. What if it's March? Like, where the hell? You're looking around going, where am I going to get a pumpkin in March?
Keep reading.
So you okay. So the special pumpkin seeds. Harvest the pumpkin in the dark of the moon and dry the seeds over a slow fire of sandalwood and horse dung. So now you need a horse. Select 3 perfect ones and grind them into a coarse meal, husks and all. Boil the basilisk, guys. We're on to method now. You scroll down for this bit. You got all the ingredients. Skip the video. So boil the basilisk eye and cockatrice feathers for exactly 5 minutes in a saline solution. So now you're an amateur chemist. We kind of knew that already. Drain and place in a jar.
Is it a glass jar or a clay jar?
We don't know. Mason jar, a jar made of skull your enemies. That's a flavour thing. Add the medusa's snake venom and gem powders. Allow to stand for 24 hours, stirring occasionally. But don't shake. Pour off liquid into bottle, add sapia and holy water, mixing contents with a silver rod. Okay, could have listed that at the start. Stirring widdershins. Now I gotta look that up.
I think it just means clockwise, but...
It does, yeah. Makes ink sufficient for 1 scroll. Hold on a second. Makes ink sufficient for 1 scroll. Announce that. That's okay. Yeah, what are you going to write it with a feather pen or a quill or something like that? So maybe, I guess, maybe it's really thick. you got gems and stuff in there. I'd say it'd be tough to scratch anything out with this concoction. It's going to be semi-solid. But there you go. That's how you make a scroll in First Ed. And the pumpkin seeds, turns out, that's... man. So you can harvest the pumpkin. So it's like October. You have to wait for your harvest season to get this done. Or you have to make sure that the guy who sold you the pumpkin seeds, reputable magic ingredient seller, guarantees you they were harvested in the dark of the moon. So
also, you have
that's
to
like
make sure,
1 week in October.
Also, there's a section where it says that a fresh virgin scroll must be used for every spell transcribed, and must be from
no scraping it back if you screw it up.
Yeah, no, and each quill must be from a creature strange or magical nature, such as a hippogriff, harpy, Pegasus, rock. So you have one group of people trying to raid the nobles' houses for hippogriff feathers to brew potions, and you have the other one trying to get the hippogriff feathers so they can scribe scrolls, and it goes on like this.
How many feathers do cockatrices have, anyways? Like that's the one where it's like I need a pinch of it, but I have to buy the whole thing. This is why you can't make cheap scrolls. Okay. Who's got a silver rod hanging around?
A wizard that wants to make potions.
That's fair. Like, you'd have to set.
I mean, you've already invested like 20,000 gold pieces in a library to write spell research. True. Presumably, at some point, you just shell out a little bit extra for a silver rod.
But yes, I am taping the special ingredients list to the back of my character sheet or Dungeon Master screen, because that just rocks. And it also, like, it points to the glaring omission. Why is there no Monster Hunter class or subclass or whatever, prestige class, whatever, depending on your version? Why is that not in D&D? I'm sure someone's made one. I'm sure someone's published one, and I'm sure it's great. But why isn't it in D&D? Like, it's so obvious. Well, it's all through this book. It's like, yeah, monsters are full of useful stuff. You should probably butcher them when you kill them. Bring a good knife. But like, here it is. Here's what, gargoyle horn. I'd never even think to pick up a gargoyle horn. Gargoyle horn. Say that 10 times fast. I'd never think to pick up a beholder eye. If I didn't know I needed it for something, or it was useful, or someone would give me something for it, like a damn feather. But there should be an entire class that's like, I know it's basically Geralt of Rivia or Elric, but yeah, what do you do at your downtime? I study the blade and I get real busy in the kitchen with this big sack of offal I brought back from my last adventure. And I've got a wonderful coat that's festooned with feathers of different things I've killed. Because I'm just fancy like that. Okay, right, done.
It's an interesting idea, but I feel like we've done an episode on cutting up monsters.
We should. We're going to do one next year. If we haven't done one already, it's fertile ground. Let's do one. No more mega projects until we finish this one.
Okay, fair enough.
But yeah, we'll pencil that. Whew. This could be the last one of the year, right? Maybe we put this out as the... no, we'll leave that for the editor to figure out. Okay, this chance of failure, right? 1 full day for each level of a scroll. This is in capitals. Preparation requires 1 full day for each level of the spell being scribed on the scroll. Okay, Gary, take a breath. So yeah, that's... this is why no one uses scrolls. They take effing forever.
And of course, then there's the base 20% chance that you'll smudge the whole thing and you have to start all over next October with the next pumpkin seed harvest.
I'm left-handed, so, I mean, that goes with...
You gotta get those rare left-handed hippogriff feathers.
Well, presumably one half of it. And then you gotta keep your robe. You should have like a robe clip to keep the big old floppy cuff out of the way, like a bicycle clip for your trousers. Robe
protectors for all of the quills in your pockets.
Presumably good lighting. You got to keep it sharp. It's a whole thing. No wonder wizards have so much stuff.
Yeah, and then it's a question of how much can you just not steal off someone else and just I'll go to McGee, the Wizard of Transmutation, and just shank him, take his spell books. I don't have to spell research, and then all of these leftover potion ingredients worth thousands.
Yeah, right guy. Is there any mention of magic item shops in this edition?
I don't think
there is.
I don't think I see anything of that persuasion
PDF
here.
is for magic item shop. Working on it. That exact string of words probably doesn't appear. I think I know why they become so popular. Alright? I'll tell you folks if it ever finds it. Right, that's bloody well that. Fabrication of other magic. We're at
I think
3/4 of it. Yeah, we're getting on.
The
Non-standard magic items. Command World's Crystal. Oh, this looks interesting. So, no, that's just the last of that part of the section.
Yeah.
Where are we going next?
I think we're 40 something minutes in.
Yeah, but I'm feeling it now. And croquet. If you've got golf, croquet is like a no-brainer, right? That's easy. It's just some hoops.
Sorry. I just remembered that there's actually another random again, this one of the best things you'll learn about reading the Dungeon Master Guides, apart from Gary's own predilections, is how terrible his own players were, because he has to have a section specifically for charming or enslaving other magic users to make magic items for you.
Oh wow. Yeah, that's a good place to... Let's do that, the non-standard magic items, we'll call it a day.
Yeah.
Okay, so it is absolutely necessary that you take note that any sort of charmed, magically persuaded, or otherwise enslaved magic user will be totally unable to function in such a manner as to allow the fabrication of any sort of magic item, scroll, potion, or otherwise. Yes, it's one of those workplace rules that you see posted up in the rec room, and you're like, why do we have that rule? And the old hand is like, well...
That's the story.
You know, Gary? Oh, man. Yeah, that obviously came up. Someone had a Red Wizard of Thay sweatshop pumping stuff out. Gary's like, where's he getting all these scrolls?
I mean...
But Gary should know, but I feel like there was secret stuff going on in these campaigns that even Gary didn't know about. And he'd open a door, and 3 players look up and go, hide it, hide everything. And then he'd discover they were running an off the books dungeon sort of strip mining operation. Like, no, they can't do that anymore. Stop that.
Then the next section of non-standard magic items has its own set of advice on what happens when a player from another campaign swans in and says, "Yeah, Dave Arneson has approved that I have the +7 Eviscerator of Lordly Might," and just sort of crits on a 2 through 20, and
This is why NFTs were ridiculed a couple of years ago. I know. This talk of NFT-based blockchain games, you could take your level 17 Scarr L from Call of Duty and bring it into World of Warcraft. And everyone went, no, you can't. Stop that. Get out. Never play a computer game in your life. Crypto shill.
Again, I don't... Again, I'm trying not to criticize Gygax so much as point out just how off-kilter the book is that he puts in all these sections designed for the way he personally was running his game, where someone could take a 3-hour drive down from, was it St. Paul City? I forget the name of the place. Minneapolis? The Twin Cities of the state over from Wisconsin. And...
yeah, you're stretching my pub quiz knowledge there, mate.
Yeah, but the people would come down from Dave Arneson's campaign, and they'd have some weird artifact that they found from raiding the fortress of the Egg of Kut, and Gygax would have no idea what the hell was going on. And so he dedicated a section of this book to... Or actually, this is like the 3rd or 4th time this point has come up. As just no, shut it down. when you teleport to Greyhawk, the eviscerator of Lord they might turns into quantum fuzz, but like this is something he considered very important to put into his book. But like
he's so dogmatic. He's so dogmatic. Never take a player's word for any item. Do not allow its use. This is my Gary voice now. Do not allow its use in your campaign unless you know his or her DM and get a full explanation in writing from that person, which details the properties of the item. In writing was in italics. I don't know how to do an italic voice, but you get it.
Yeah, but he puts in this, but he doesn't put in like how to schedule games, how long would the average session go, like
that sounds like advice.
Yeah, there's no there's all kinds of ideas here, but there's very little advice for like general stuff. It's all extremely specific stuff, and more importantly, it's very specific stuff for the way Gygax played. And I guess
that's what a guide is. I mean, have you ever read the Hitchhiker's Guide? Like it's all very specific stuff about very specific places where things happen. Or any of the rough guides, like go to this street, this deli is fine, this one will give you diphtheria. Don't ask us how we know. Like this is the DMG. I mean, the subtext here is Dungeon Master's Guide to Running My Game by Gary Gygax.
But it's
age 34 and a half.
But when I always come across people glorifying this book, they're always presenting it as if it's the ultimate guide of advice to any GM. Even
they're not. They haven't read it. They don't know it. They read a bunch of OSR stuff that's vaguely based on it. It's Chinese whispers.
Quite possibly.
Adobe Acrobat Reader has finished searching this document. No matches were found for Magic Item Shop. I'd just try Magic Shop. Just, in the spirit of rigorous research.
I think. Okay, I won't spoil it. But like I think.
It's back to me quickly on that one. Nope.
Okay.
So there you go.
It's indexed.
Maybe I'm wrong, but
I think there are rules. There might be rules for selling magic items in a couple of pages, which we'll have to get to next week, folks.
I'll get my money back.
Yeah, we've been at this almost an hour, and.
All right, we made great progress though. Where did we start? 3 pages back. Okay,
we're back to our first couple of episodes, and the rate we're going there.
Well, see, with no artwork at this point.
Yeah,
there's no pages to skip.
Oh, I think we're down to very little artwork that isn't just like cartoons from some random episode of
budget.
Yeah,
no one was going to read this far back.
Stuff that was rejected from Dungeon Magazine.
Presumably they have darts. I mean, dart is a weapon. It doesn't take a long... Yeah, I mean, that kind of makes sense, that if they have darts. Now, I mean, you could go... If you put enough sports in your medieval/fantasy world, presumably you can have a sort of like a Casey Jones-style barbarian. That'd be amazing. Casey Jones from, that TV show, The Muppets. Yeah. All right. We should probably wrap it up there.
Sorry, now you just got me thinking of like the Shrine of Tomoe-chan, where you have to play like Aztec baseball to get through one of the corridors, or not baseball, basketball. That's one.
I never saw that show, but I'll take your word for it. You've got to use a head, right?
Thanks for joining us in our smoking room, dear listeners, and we will begin our freewheeling journey down the slope of the rest of this book in the new year. In the meantime, have a happy Christmas, and to all a good night, I guess.
I guess too. That's my guess. I'm sticking to it. Good night, folks.
Night. And heading stuff.
Oh, man. And that's the show, folks. Hope you liked it. If you'd like to pick up any of the things we talked about, you can join us on our Discord. You'll find a link in the show notes. You can also find us on Facebook and Twitter, assuming that's still around. If you like to listen to the show, you can find us on Spotify. We also put each episode up on YouTube. Hope you've enjoyed the show today, and hope you'll join us in the new year for even more of the Adventuring Party. Have a great holiday, folks. See you on the other side.